too. We did it. I'm so excited for us.
Okay, I will introduce y'all and then I will let y'all get to it. Thank y'all so much for being in conversation. Okay, good afternoon. I'm Andrea Toston, Cultural Programs Coordinator. Oh, am I getting is
I
it
hear a little
echoing?
feedback. I'm gonna try to mute my mic and see if that helps.
I'll mute mine as well.
Okay, yes. I'm Andrea Toston, Cultural Programs Coordinator here at the Oak Cliff Cultural Center. The Oak Cliff Cultural Center is a division of the City of Dallas Office of Arts and Culture. Thank you for joining our virtual event, Cultural Practices of Honoring Ancestors, featuring Juju Bae and Taylor Crumpton. Today is the first day of October, and this month we will have Victoria Gonzalez's solo exhibition, Altars, in the gallery October 4th through November 7th, with the reception happening on Saturday, October the 18th, from 6 to 8 p.m. And the next class in our Mortar and Pestle series with Chef Fana Johannes on Wednesday, October 22nd, from 7 to 8 p.m. Now I will introduce our guest. Juju Bae is a practitioner of multiple West African and diasporic traditions, including Ifa and Hoodoo conjure, and is an Osun priestess in the Orisha tradition. She is the author of the book of Juju, Africana Spirituality for Healing, Liberation, and Self-Discovery, a work of creative nonfiction that combines memoir, history, and guided prompts for readers to begin or strengthen their ancestral spiritual practice. She is the founder of Juju Bae, a multimedia Black-centric resource that seeks to demystify the Black occult through storytelling interviews and lighthearted conversations with 21st century relevance. She's the host of the award-winning show, A Little Juju podcast, which encourages people of the diaspora to find a home in Africana spiritual spaces and thought. She starred in the 2023 Hulu paranormal docuseries, Living for the Dead, produced by Kristen Stewart. She helps people, young and old, to remember that we have the tools and guidance with us as we journey through this lifetime and the next. Juju is a sought-after spiritual teacher who loves to sing and holds a BA in psychology from Spelman College. She lives in Brooklyn, New York. Taylor Crumpton is a music, pop culture, and politics writer from Dallas. In her work, which can be found in outlets like Time, The New York Post, The Wall Street Journal, Harper's Bazaar, The Guardian, NPR, and many other platforms, Crumpton writes about a range of topics from Black queer advocacy to the underrepresented hip-hop scenes in the southern United States to pop analysis on releases like WAP and Black is King. And yay, so excited. And thank you both so much for agreeing to be in conversation. And now I'll let y'all take it away.
All right now, because I grew up down south, won't he do it? Won't he do it? We are here.
Every time.
After many trials and tribulations, and I'm so thankful and honored to share this space with you. If y'all, I feel like I'm really going real church, but a lot of my ancestors were deacons, so forgive me and them for coming to the pulpit. But for those who are familiar with Juju's work, I will be referring to her debut book, her first of many, that was mentioned in her bio, The Book of Juju, Africana Spirituality for Healing, Liberation, and Self-Discovery. If we want to make a full circle moment, since one of our friends has joined the chat from the Rebirth Society in the Chicago Southside Birth Center, every year they have a Hoodoo Heritage Month festival in which Juju was a beautiful panelist last year. And I came and I have a note from Juju handwritten in my copy that says, I pray the book brings you clarity and blessings, Juju. So one thing that I want everyone who's watching this live right now in the present and who will watch in the future is that we do not have hoodoo without Black women and Black queers in the spirituality of the divine feminine that Juju so beautifully gives us to this world.
Thank you, Taylor. You're so sweet. I'm so excited to be in conversation with you today and in the future. I'm sure we'll be talking a lot in our lifetimes, and I love it.
I know we will. I want to start off today. It's the first day of Hoodoo Heritage Month, which was started by Mama Rue and the Collective in 2019. For those who are unfamiliar or maybe just a little bit familiar, one of the reasons she decided to found Hoodoo Heritage Month is because Hoodoo has been inundated since its creation till now with an abundance of misinformation. And one of the reasons Juju was so revered is that she's clearing a lot of historical wrongs and evils that have been present with the Hoodoo tradition. Mm-hmm. One thing that I enjoy about you as a scholar is how you define. You said that Hoodoo is a Black American spiritual tradition and way of life that descended from enslaved Africans in America. This active creation and understanding of Black Americanism by enslaved Africans creates a particularly charged way of understanding life and spirit. Oftentimes, Hoodoo has been defined by the intersections of European folk magic, Native American folk magic. Could you tell me why, in creating this definition that is published, that people can refer to, you included to center and highlight Black Americanism?
It's so funny because when you read that, I was like, did I say that? Wow, that was me. Okay. Well, I'm a truth teller. I simply love the truth. And it's so important for me. Oh, hold on, I'm getting feedback again somehow. Are you hearing the feedback?
I'm not.
Okay, I hear it a little bit. I'm a truth teller, and I wanted to ensure that the messages that the practice that my people had that taught me, that raised me, is told in a way that is the truth. You know, it's not about my opinion. It's not because I want Hoodoo to be only Black. I want Hoodoo to be what it is. And the truth of the matter is that it is a Black American system. It is a cultural system. It is a spiritual system. It is a religion for certain folks. It is a way of life and being. And the more that we say that, the more that it solidifies it into the canon, you know, our oral history canon, the canon of literature that exists. And so Hoodoo deserves to take up that kind of space. So that's why I told the truth around the historical aspect. Because that's just what it is. And Hoodoo is a practice of, that's just what it is. So I think it's just being in the spirit of the practice of the system to just tell it what it is.
Listen, I admire you for telling the truth and shaming the devil. I am looking at the comments. We are getting a little bit of feedback on your end. I'm seeing 3 comments about the feedback, so I don't know if it's a mic thing, but if y'all are okay with it, we'll just kind of rock through it. If it's really a concern, I feel like we can try to troubleshoot again. How are you feeling, Juju?
Let me see. I wonder, I don't know if it's like because I heard it with Andrea, but then when I went mute, I don't know if it's like we have to mute when each other are speaking, but let me see.
Okay, it says it's just an echo. If y'all are okay with that echo for 40-30 minutes, I feel like we can keep the conversation going.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay, so one thing I heard in your answer is that Hoodoo is not only a religion, but a way of life. There are societal elements, cultural elements, anthropological elements, and you bring all of that into your work. I would love for those who have only been able to see it through pop culture and media, which is often conflated with voodoo or other diasporic traditional religions. Yeah. What makes Hoodoo stand out among the fold?
Ooh. I mean, there's so many things. I mean, I think it's such a unique practice. And even though Hoodoo is communal for many reasons, people do the work together, pray together, convene together, it's also a very intimate and personal practice too. I think that people Hoodoo in different ways. There's so much nuance from how Texan folks is hoodooing to how the Eastern Shore Virginia folks did their practice. And so I love that there is this variety. It's diverse. There's this essence to it that you don't have to really go outside of yourself, especially for Black American folks. We don't really have to go outside of ourselves to interact with the practice. Whether you identify with hoodoo or not, or as a hoodoo, or as a conjurer, as a root worker, you've seen it. You know it. You've interacted with it. You have family that engage with it, whether they call themselves it or not. And so I think that that's the beauty of it. It's not something that we have to go. Well, of course, people are studying, want to know more about hoodoo, yes. But essentially what I tell folks who want to learn more is just like, look at yourself, look at your upbringing, look at your neighbors, look at your elders around you. If you didn't have your own elders, the elders that you could get to know now, there are ways that you can interact and learn more, and you don't really have to go that far. It's probably things that you just considered were, weird things we just did, or things we thought, things that the ways that we move, the ways that we dance, the ways that we prayed. And that's actually the hoodoo. And I think that that's a really special, unique aspect of this particular system itself. It's like it's already been right here.
And I think about that line from Renaissance, we talk a certain way, we dance a certain way,
yes,
a certain way, and connecting that to hoodoo is those distinctions that are so unique and tethered and tied and a part of the African American experience. 9 times out of 10 originate from a place of hoodoo. I know in my own work as a journalist, I've written about hoodoo's place in a lot of New Year's Eve traditions, us cleaning the house, making black-eyed peas, green, cornbread, bringing all of that to a beginning of a new year, a new chapter, a new season of life. And that's one thing that I have always admired about your work, even before you were an author, but your award-winning podcast, A Little Juju, that we brought up earlier in the chat, is that you do a good job of connecting things that are in the everyday to hoodoo.
Yeah.
As of now, there is like this resurgence of hoodoo in pop culture, whether that be for the movie Sinners, Mauna Leo's latest release. Could you, in your own words, tell me about this moment? Because you've been someone who has been publicly and forward-facing about hoodoo for a number of years, and now I almost see maybe the second wave, or it could be third wave, based on your understanding of hoodoo's relevance in pop culture.
Yeah. We're in such an interesting time. I think it's an exciting time for hoodoo because, like you've listed, folks are showing things in music videos and talking more about being proud of being Black American. And I think this is really important for Black American people specifically, because that means that there's an instilling of pride happening, which is essentially part of what hoodoo is about, that installation of feeling good about what it means to be where I'm from, which is for me, that's from Maryland. I'm proud to be from Maryland. I have certain ideas because I'm from Maryland. Baltimore specifically, I go about my life a certain way because I'm from Baltimore specifically. That's all hoodoo to me. So that kind of points to something I think that's happening with Black American folks, where we're like, okay, we have things, we have ideas, we had a cultural system, we have history, and we know that in theory, but sometimes we get gaslit outside of that, but also sometimes we gaslight ourselves around what we have. And so I think it's pointing to this moment where we're getting really honest about what we have brought to the table, who we are, and where we're going. On the flip side of that, though, I do think that because hoodoo is growing in its popularity, this is the time for ethical practitioners to really step forward, because there is a lot of misinformation, and this is an opportunity that it could be skewed in the right way of historical fact, or it could be skewed in another way because we are largely societally in a time where it is not cool to be thoughtful or to think or to use your brain. Not just for everybody. It's just we're not in a time where we're valuing research and facts. So we do have to keep that in mind as we talk about hoodoo, because we're in that current type of climate, to ensure that it doesn't go the way which we've gotten ourselves out of misrepresenting hoodoo as a practice itself.
Thank you so much for answering that question so beautifully. We're getting a couple of comments about feedback. I'm seeing all of them. There has been a suggestion for the Oak Cliff Cultural Center to mute, and maybe feedback's up there. I did see the comment about headphones. I feel that we would not be able to engage in a natural conversation if Juju and I both have headphones on, but we are going to try to see what's going on here. Andrea, could you possibly mute on the Oak Cliff Cultural Center side, and let's see if that kills a little bit of the feedback? Okay, it is muted through the OC3 page, y'all. So I see the comments. We've addressed it now. To get back into the conversation, you've brought up ethics, and oftentimes the way Hoodoo has been portrayed previously until now, there's this dichotomy of good and bad, of evil and good. And for all of us who are either a little bit familiar with the practice, you could be very long in the practice, we know that that binary, that system of good and bad, is not native, nor does it originate from any type of African traditional religions, diasporic traditional religions. That has been brought via colonization. But right now, I would love to hear from you as a practitioner or scholar of this work. Could you demystify and maybe speak truth to light about how Hoodoo is not necessarily good or bad? It is all about intention and what the practitioner is trying to bring, because you also categorize it as a healing liberation system, as a place that you can go to heal. And I think just looking at the state of the world right now, part of that pride that Black Americans are feeling towards Black American culture, towards Hoodoo, is that we're also trying to heal in a moment where there are so many other forces that weigh down on us and break us down in a multitude of ways.
So I would say, oh, I'm seeing y'all comments about, okay, I'm glad it's clearing out for y'all. Taylor, I don't know, maybe can you try to mute and see? I know that kind of breaks up our conversation, but we'll see if
I'll mute right now.
Or otherwise. Oh, okay, cool. That works for now. Okay, so Hoodoo is neutral. It is a neutral force. It is a neutral energy. Like you said, many Africana spiritual systems are not about this is good, this is bad, because that's not really helpful. That's more of a Western idea. That's more of an Abrahamic idea around good things, bad things. However, I do want to honor that there are things that we don't enjoy, that are harmful to us, that hurt us. And so I don't, even though Hoodoo is neutral and many African spiritual systems, Africana systems are neutral, that doesn't mean that everything is just a free-for-all and we just have a right to do whatever to whoever and harm people, because we know where that leads us. You know, we could look outside and look to our history to know where that leads us. However, it is important to note that, yes, Hoodoo is a liberation. It can be for liberation. It can be for harming. It can be for healing. It can be for whatever you want it to be, which is what I think points to its neutrality. It's not about I go to Hoodoo just to hex my neighbor. But historically, plenty of people have hexed their neighbor, you know, using Hoodoo. I love to research. I love to read what practitioners were doing in the 30s, in the 40s, even during enslavement. And a lot of people were using it to address harm, masters, Jim Crow, but people were also using it in their church homes. They were using it against their husbands. They were using it against their wives. They were using it against their cousins. Again, the neutrality of the practice is not just one thing. I can use Hoodoo ideas to consider how rituals that we should do for a newborn baby, or I could also consider it on how I want to make sure that my partner doesn't cheat on me. You know, all these things are just things. And so they are used to the discretion of the practitioner. Now, do I think that every working that someone does is right or good or necessary? No. But essentially, it is up to whatever sort of moral compass that you have, which I think is why people are fearful of it, because it's kind of up to you. It's acknowledging that you have a lot of power, and how are you going to use it? This is a power tradition. It is the powerful versus the powerless. How will you decide to use your power in this moment? And I think that's also just a general question we should be asking ourselves now. How are we going to use our power in this moment? And how might we look to Hoodoo and other systems in order to address how we can be powerful instead of powerless?
Well, a beautiful response. Thank you so much for breaking it down. I think oftentimes the way hoodoo and then other Africana spiritual traditions have been characterized and also written about in canons that have been published for generations, is that there is this lack of the ethical framework, this lack of the understanding. And I love the way you brought up power and powerless, because in this moment, a lot of Black Americans, a lot of people of color, immigrants, trans folks are feeling powerless. But what I have found in my own hoodoo practice is that reconnecting with my ancestors, coming to them about things that are going on in my personal life, my professional life, the everyday life, also allows me to connect with them and feel empowered by them. So for those who are seeking to get into ancestral work, which is a tenet of hoodoo, but not all hoodoo, could you maybe share your own journey towards incorporating this ancestral technology into your life, and maybe offer some suggestions about people who are going to watch this, what they can do to start implementing that so they feel like an empowered being? Because right now, so many people feel disempowered, and then that's how we lead to a climate like right now where people are acting out of emotion and passion, but not from a place of power.
And also, I want to credit Dr. Yvonne Chareau. This concept of powerful versus powerless is something that I picked up from her book. Oh my gosh, why is it slipping my brain? Black Magic. Black Magic. So ancestors have been a really crucial and important part of my hoodoo journey. I love that you said that's some of hoodoo, because some people don't necessarily always work with ancestors directly. Some people like to work with God. Some people like to work with Jesus. Some people like to work with Jesus and God and ancestors. Some people work with Allah, so it really just depends on your lineage, where you come from, what you feel most connected to. But for me, my practice, I am a God-fearing girl, but I work very closely with my ancestors. And as a Black American person who is descended from people who were enslaved on this land, I think it is so crucial for us who have that kind of history to lock in and really connect with like the people that came before us. Because not only do they have messages, they have love, they have blessings and guidance, but sometimes when I feel when I like hear the news, or I'm just seeing what's happening in the world, it can feel very disheartening and like, what's the point? Like, what is the point of this? Why am I here during this time? Why is everything so hard for me? And I only get to stay there, but for so long, because then if I think about my great, 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 great grandmother, her experience on a plantation in South Carolina, or my other side on plantations in Virginia, I can be like, and I have the ability to be here. I'm here. Like, my family is here. We are alive. For the most part, we well as we can be under the circumstances. So I have to think about that. I know sometimes people say, I'm tired of being resilient. That's so real. And like, we don't have a choice. Like, there's no choice but to be resilient. And so ancestral connection allows us, especially with that kind of history, to remember that this is not the first time that we've gone through some of the hardest things that humans probably ever have to experience, and witness some of the hardest things that humans have to experience. And so that can look like building an altar. That can look like just regular prayer, no altar. That can look like giving libations, which is a way to honor the spirits, the ancestors, to honor the land, the earth, those who come before us, those who are with us now. So it could just be incorporating libations, every Sunday you do that. Or you take part or learn a trade that was important to one of your ancestors. If they were working with metals, if they knew how to make clothes, if they knew whatever it is, maybe it's time to pick that up. Maybe this is a good time to consider what it might look like to make your garments, or to be able to fix your garments. As we see terror, like, there's so many things happening. So one thing our ancestors got really right was like, they were very self-sufficient people. And because of society and technology, which we love, but it has made us less self-sufficient. So connecting and learning and valuing history, not seeing everything as archaic or old, or just that's of the past. Really bringing that Sankofa energy, bringing the past with us, I think is a practice that doesn't necessarily always feel like it's so out there, or I don't know how to build altar. I'm not comfortable with that. Okay, well, just think about what people used to do. We might have to lock back in a little bit more with what people growing food. We might have to consider what that looks like today and then embark on that.
I loved all of your responses. In particular, I think folks are so afraid to find an entry point when sometimes the entry points are just the things that you love to do, that you feel called to do. To share a personal story, I got ginger braids last fall, and one of my friends who is a seer saw in a photo of mine, she was like, you have an ancestor behind you who I'm like picking up that at the time that she was here on earth, she's the only person in the family who could read and write, and she really wanted to be a writer, but she only appeared when you had this certain hair color. And I was like, okay. And ironically, I had just signed my book deal and started my book writing process. So sometimes, y'all, it is as simple as being like, I like this hair color, or I like this certain thing. That is an ancestor trying to send you a sign. It's not always dreams, it's not always tarot divination. It can just be something that you enjoy and like to partake in. Yeah. To bring it to what's going on currently in the world, as we know, I'm from the South, I'm from Texas, y'all can hear it in my voice. I have 3 Dallas tattoos, so y'all can never deny me, even though I no longer live there. There has been an environment in which people who are non-Christian, so this also includes all the other Abrahamic religions, a spirit of fear of being so public facing right now, and a fear that could be characterized by some as censorship, that the rights that our ancestors have fought so hard for, civil rights, political rights, human rights, are not as strong as they once were. And you were someone who was forward facing. I mean, you're a part of this chat, it will be shared, there are people commenting on it. You have a website, you have a book, a podcast. So could you tell me right now, as someone who has been public facing for so many years, how are you feeling in this climate, and what are you doing to protect yourself?
Thank you for that question. I don't want to say that I'm scared, but like I'm scared. I'm not fearful in the sense that I think it is going to happen to me, or in that regard, but it means something to publicly call oneself, well, I think non-Christian, period. Even if you're Abrahamic, I think it's one thing to just call yourself a non-Christian person, but then there's a whole other layer if you are a practitioner of an ATR, African traditional religion, or diasporan religion, or even something labeled through the occult. I think that is it's dangerous. It actually always has been. But I think now, because everything is so publicly violent in a way that we haven't always visibly seen, especially on technology, then that causes concern for practitioners. And I think that we do have to think about what it means to call ourselves that in this moment. I don't think that means we need to not call ourselves it, unless that is what that means for someone, or that we have to not practice. But hoodoo and many ATRs, people don't understand them. They're weirded out by them because a lot of them are secret. There is a level of invisibility. And it's so funny, I think, to how my ancestors wanted me to be public facing in this. And I always have to think about the balance. Like, they wanted me to start a podcast. They wanted me to write about it. They wanted me to do all these things. But I'm like, this is such a private, secret practice. So why do I need to do this? But at the same token, I understand why there does need to be public facing people. People do have to be truth tellers. People do have to be, I wouldn't say I'm a rebel rouser, but maybe in 2016, 2017, it was a little, I was pushing the limits. I think I've calmed down. But yeah, I think that there's a balance. And so we have to figure out what things that we allow people to see and say and do, and what things we take into the house. You know, what things are just for your community, what things are just the conversations that we have in private, what conversations can we have on this call, and the ones that we would have in, you know, in a separate space if it was just me and you or other folks around, you know. So as it goes for protection, for me, protection for me looks like I have to still be forward facing in public. That is my protection, because that's my work. And so nothing will push me out of my work. I know I'm fully in my work. But I do think that practitioners, really, we have to consider what this means for us. How do we know the laws around us? I saw a post recently about someone who owns a tarot shop in Philly, and the police came to threaten to arrest them because tarot is illegal in Pennsylvania. You know, like, I think this person ended up being okay, but like, we have to really think about what our rights are right now as it relates to racially, but also spiritually. And then locking in with your protection works. Praying for protection all the time, carrying the things on you that you feel protect you, having loved ones, friends, family around to be able to support you. Like, protection happens on all fronts, but particularly spiritual. I think we really need to ensure that we have, sure, our physical protections, whatever that means, but also that your spiritual allies know that when it's time to roll, it's time to roll. You know what I mean.
I'm thankful that you brought up the example of what occurred in Philadelphia, because to bring it back home to Dallas and Oak Cliff in particular, the Dallas Observer wrote about this many years ago. There's a local botanica in Norfolk Cliff that I used to frequent when I lived in Norfolk Cliff. Some people now regard it as the Bishop Arts area. Teach their own. If you've been raised in Dallas, you know it's Norfolk Cliff. But all that to say that because of the work that they were doing for the community, they were then put on, I don't want to say a watch list, so please do not misquote me, yeah. But legal stuff occurred because of the work that they were doing, which involved animals at the time. So even though that case was within the past 25 years, as Juju has mentioned, things are coming up every day. So there is a need for protection. I always, as myself, have protection oils nearby. Prayer is a really good one. But it would be remiss of both of us to not bring to the forefront that this is a different year to celebrate Hoodoo Heritage Month.
Very much so. It's a different year. It's a different time. This is not when I started being public facing in 2016, 2017. This is not the same. We're not dealing with the same energy. We're not even dealing with the same spirits. And like, we are dealing with different things. So that means that we have to move different. That's going to look different for everyone, but this is not the same. Like, we have to lock in. We really do.
And I think about your entry point of 2016 as someone who is a longtime listener of A Little Juju. One of the things I remember about your introductory story that you shared with us was watching The Lemonade. And I think, if memory serves me right, your first altar was like a shoebox with a glass of water. It was like a very miniature, I assume, and I can infer that it's not that way now. But maybe tell me how your altar has grown over time as you have grown and learned more about your ancestors over time. You're initiated in 2 different traditions, so I can only imagine maybe you have 2 separate altars, but maybe walk us through, that journey and how your altar has grown or maybe subtracted from it. I think people are curious that the altar is such a good entry point, but how has yours changed?
Yes. So for those who don't know, as I mentioned before, as we both mentioned, that an altar is a space where you're honoring your lineage, you're honoring those that you descended from, whether that's blood or collective ancestors that we all share, people that came before us who have gone on to the other side, whose energy we want to uplift or whose energy we want to call into our current space. It's an acknowledgement that our dead, our people haven't gone but so far away, that they're always just one, prayer or call or libation away to be able to support us. So my altars have gone through different iterations depending on where I've lived. I've had altars that were filled with pictures of my ancestors, and my ancestors were like, we don't want no pictures, take them down. So I've gone through altars with no pictures, altars that have been, most of mine have been on with wood. Usually I'll have like a separate wood table. I had an altar when I started off as an espiritismo, which is a more uh, I would say, I don't even know specifically. I would say Spanish, but also like French, European, Latinx, Cuban, mix of dealing with the dead. When I was more in the Espiritismo space, I had altars with like a ton of water on it. Like there was just, I forgot how many glasses of water. I had at least 9 glasses of water on it. And then, I've had 1 glass of water. It's so funny because right now I actually don't have like a proper ancestor altar anymore, for a variety of different reasons. But I actually needed to get something more traditional. My ancestors said they did not want an altar space in that sense. They actually wanted me to get a consecrated shrine to honor them. And so I don't have an altar up yet because I'm waiting for my consecrated shrine to come back, because a lot of my ancestors who I've been working with recently are actually from Nigeria. And so they wanted a Nigerian shrine. So my ancestor altar now does not exist. I still talk to them. I commune with them. I typically would just light a candle and water if I need to like work with them. But I'm actually waiting on my shrine to come back from Nigeria. So again, it goes up and down. It changes. Of course, it's influenced by my other initiations, of course. But essentially, whether it's with the candle and a glass of water or them bunches of sticks I'm about to get from Nigeria, my ancestors, they can live through any object. It's just about your intention, how you call them, and then what they're asking for.
Thank you for walking us through the journey. I, for one, love hearing how different ancestors of the African diaspora are really prevalent at one certain time in your life. My mother, as I've said, y'all, multi-generational Texan. So when I asked her first about her lineage, she said, well, baby, a bunch of people jumped in a woodpile, then you came out. So all that to say, there may be times in your life where your Black American ancestors really at the forefront, your African ancestors really at the forefront. I had a time last year where I had some non-Black, white European ancestors and white American ancestors take me on a press trip to Virginia in the Appalachian Mountains, because that is where my lineage also comes from and why I write about country music so much. So all that to say, y'all, you can start off with a glass of water and a candle and intention, but over time, it could grow, it can decrease, whatever it may be.
Yep. And it does, and it's okay. Like some people, it's really interesting. I've actually been in readings recently where both ancestors were saying that they didn't want their altar to be up anymore. I think this was part of it. Sometimes was because people weren't doing anything with them. So I noticed that ancestors don't really like for altars to be up if you don't engage with it. It's just sitting there collecting dust, and it doesn't need to be there. But also I noticed that a lot of ancestors were asking for altars to be outside. Like I've noticed that a lot more in people who are coming to me to read specifically. So I also think that there's something happening, at least with my clients, around connecting really directly with the land. Like wanting to be in the garden, wanting to be in the plant, wanting to be on the front porch. That has come up a lot for me, more than it ever has with my clients.
Thank you for sharing that with us, because I know some people have been commenting in the chat, how does something get involved? I think one reoccurring thing that's come out on the response is intention, and also finding out what your ancestors enjoyed and like to do. Be mindful, ancestors also are part of nature, in the rivers, in the trees. Texas has over 50 different microclimates within the state and the region. If you're not native to North Texas, East Texas has swamps. It's very close to Louisiana. If you have ancestors near the border, think about the cactus, the desert lands. Think about where your family migrated from and what is commonplace there, and try to do it. It's not that scary, y'all. Now, I know we're getting towards the end of our chat. We have about 15 minutes left. One thing I would like to bring up, because I've been reviewing your work as of late, is where you're at right now. You were so accomplished in multiple realms, in multiple spaces, in multiple industries. What's something that is still inspiring you and making you feel joyful in the hoodoo tradition of practice? Because joy is something that really is a tenet of my hoodoo practice and work. I love singing with my ancestors. I love cooking for my ancestors. I love dancing with my ancestors. My papa loved to drink. I always joke I have a high alcohol tolerance because of him. So what are some ways that you're still finding joy in your hoodoo practice right now?
That's such a sweet question. I'm actually working on my, oh God, well, I didn't say that. I'm working on my second book. It's not out. I shouldn't even say it because working is so, working. It's up here. But I'm really inspired by, I think forward facing, I would call it mediumship, but in a hoodoo context, I would call it the process of being slain in the spirit, the process of tearing, the process of, possession, which shows up in different traditions. But I've just been so fascinated by this idea of catching the Holy Ghost, catching the Spirit. Or I think that the text is not just going to focus on catching the Holy Ghost, but in different religious iterations, how people are catching Spirit and what's happening. But that has been I've just been in the world of possession, because I want to know what's happening and what is, not what's the purpose, but what is Spirit trying to say, to where people have to be laid out? Or is it a process of clearing that needs to happen? Is this something that we should try to be invoking more? I think that the Pentecostals, they're really onto something with the process of the power of the Spirit coming and removing or clearing or cleansing. We think about a lot of spiritual or just revolutions throughout history. There was an element, is often an element of possession or having to embody an ancestor, embody an element, embody a deity in order to get something done. And so I'm just considering, what does that mean today in 2025? Of what does it mean to really work our spirit of that, of allowing the Holy Spirit or whatever spirit, to come through and do something with you, or you do something with that energy. And so as someone who has that gift, I'm a quick possessor. I'm laid out. I'm a speak in another language. That is me. And part of this is me trying to understand more about myself and what is this gift for? Why do I have it? What is its purpose in this time? And also to encourage other people who have that gift to work it. So I am fully finding joy in possession and being slain in the spirit. Which I will say also gets triggered by singing and dancing and alcohol, liquor, pouring liquor off, drinking myself, smoking, just like my granddaddies, they smoke like chimneys. But those things trigger something spiritually for me and for many other folks. So that has been what's keeping me up at night and making me very, very, very excited.
Well, I look forward to book 2 in advance. I hope I get a sweet note.
Of course.
I think I'm so joyful that we have moments where we get to talk to practitioners in real time and hear about their evolution, their growth. And I hope for those who are watching to understand that whether this is your first entry point, whether it's the first of many, whether you've been doing it for years, then it is okay to have a spirit of evolution and maturation in your practice. Because also, this has come up in my own family reading, my mother is one of 11, and one of her siblings died in Galveston, Texas, the birthplace of Juneteenth, when she was young. And my mother always goes to the family graveyard. She cleans it out. She lays offerings. And in a reading that I had received, she had come to tell my mom, please stop living little girl stuff. I'm a grown woman. I'm the same age as I would have been. Please do not think that I am a baby. So all that to say, as we grow and evolve in our practice, so do our ancestors. And I want that to be known that you may, for instance, one year they really like whiskey. I'm speaking from personal experience. I would put whiskey in gin. whiskey gone, gin would stay there forever. Like I never touched it. And then one year, they love gin. So everyone, remember that it is a liberatory practice and it's going to change and evolve over time as we do.
Yes, I'm so glad you brought that up because it really is, this is a living, breathing tradition. Yes, there is history. Yes, we have ancestors who are a part of the practice. Yes, there are norms, etc. But it's so beautiful to be in a time that we actually are the keepers of this. So in 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, 50 years, 100 years, people will be looking at this time to know what we were doing, what we believed, what kind of practice that we had, what were the rituals we did, what were the prayers that we said, what ancestors, spirits, plants were we working with in our particular location. And so that means something. Like we should honor and value, and we should be looking to the history, the historical fact of what it is to be hoodoo. But we also need to consider, what is the hoodoo of today? What do we want to do with this work? What is our intention? Again, we're not all going to agree necessarily, and neither did they. They didn't all agree either. They were hexing each other and doing everything else. But what do we want to be in the history books about this moment? Because it is living and breathing. Our ancestors changed, we change, and so does hoodoo. And so does conjure. And so do the spirits that want to work with us. And so do our ancestors. We get to cultivate the literal, the actual culture of hoodoo. So we need to make it good and make it count for this time so that we are not embarrassed by what they talk about and what they see from us in 50 years, 60 years, 100 years.
I think the principle of stewardship is something that really resonates with me. And I want folks, for those who have church hurt, as a term that has been kind of synonymous with folks who transition out of Christian faith traditions and practices towards non-Christian ones, towards ones like ATRs and DTRs. What Juju and I have spoke about in great detail is responsibility, but not domination, not control, not adherence to a set, strict, rigid, fixed set of values. Yes, there's an ethical framework. Yes, there's intention, but it would be remiss for us to not have a conversation at the Oak Cliff Cultural Center in Dallas, Texas, in the Southern United States, in the Bible Belt, and not bring up the differences between hoodoo, Christianity, church hurt, liberation, and joy.
They all work together and then they all don't. You know, like it's just, and that's the hoodoo of it all.
Well, I just heard the theme song in my head.
I'm screaming.
Literally just
Because you get it.
I get it. I know. Okay, y'all. We that was such a beautiful note to end off of. I want to thank you for your time, your candor, your work. For those who are unfamiliar, I have been following Juju for years, and it is great. I always relish in any opportunity to be in conversation with her. So please buy the book, as Brandy said. We need y'all to buy the book. We need you to support our practitioners who are here with us, living and breathing. And we all need to give a round of applause to the woman of the hour, who is the brains and sweet and heart behind this machine and made all of this happen, who has come back to join us.
Thank you, Andrea. Thank you, Osun Cultural Center. Thank you, Taylor.
Thank you all so much. Thank you all for that beautiful conversation. And everyone, look for the reposts on all of our pages. And I just want to say thank you all again. Beautiful conversation. And I'll talk to y'all soon.
Okay. Wishing everybody a happy Hoodoo Heritage Month, y'all.
Happy Hoodoo Heritage Month.
Happy Hoodoo Heritage Month. Thank you.